What is the economic cost of crime in South Africa? We speak to Yusuf Abramjee of Tax Justice, South Africa. Welcome, Yusuf.
Thank you, Chris.
What are the latest figures?
Well, we know that the World Bank has done a study into the economic impact of crime in South Africa. It's quite a detailed findings in the study, but it shows in a nutshell that some 700 billion rand is lost to our economy, to South Africa, every year as a result of crime. We know that the economic impact is substantial. Forget the psychological effects, the mental state of our country, of our citizens, the joblessness, the unemployment, and so on, economic growth most certainly has an effect. And we even see, talking of the economy and the effects, tourists being affected, tourists falling victim to crime, and you can imagine what a negative impact it's got on South Africa, even from the tourist industry, Chris.
Do you think that is a conservative figure, or do you think it's overstated?
Well, it's possibly more. Can you imagine the things we can do with a loss of 700 billion rand to our economy? And that's the point that the study is making. If companies use that money instead to prosper South Africa, to invest into South Africa, can you imagine what growth we will see? So most certainly, the lawlessness that we are seeing is on a grand scale. These criminals are continuing to run amok. We know that the murder rate, for example, is an average, according to the latest crime statistics, of 78 each and every day. We know there's a few hijackings every hour. We know that a person is raped on average every 2 or 3 minutes. I can go on and on and on. And Chris, I don't have to preach to you to tell you how South Africans are living, the fear that we are living, and specifically on the illicit trade, where tax justice is very, very focused on. We see these criminals continue to run amok, and yet the government has the audacity to bring what they call the tobacco control bill on the table for people to go and discuss and debate, knowing that the illicit trade is going to make these criminal kingpins richer. Yesterday, I was at one of the hearings outside in Pretoria, so-called public hearings, where members of the public were locked outside. There wasn't enough space. The informal sector was there. The tobacco farmers were there. Ordinary citizens were there to raise their objections. But government seems to be fixed on the idea that this new bill must become law. And I think really the time has come for government to really get its house in order. We know the lawlessness is continuing. We know there seems to be very little political will to make South Africa safe. And we know that these criminals are becoming filthy rich. The kingpins, and that is the findings of or the recommendations in this particular World Bank survey, the kingpins need to be arrested. The criminal justice system, which is absolutely useless, if I can say it with all respect, although some breakthroughs are made, must get its act together. And really the time has now come for South Africans to take a stand against crime.
I know you've called for an all-out war, but what are the chances of that happening? Who will lead that war?
Well, it's up to us as citizens to make a difference. Every one of us have a role to play. We must break our silence. We must stand up. Even if it means taking to the streets, within the framework of the law, we have to do it. For how long are we going to sit back and live behind high walls, behind fences, with beams, some people with bodyguards? It just goes on and on. It's scary. And face the reality, Chris, when you drive, even during the daytime on the streets of South Africa, do you feel safe? Certainly not. Even with all your alarms and security, you still do not even feel safe in your own homes. I can give you example after example about these criminals running amok. And we know in the run-up to the festive season, these criminals also want a grand holiday with your hard-earned cash, and they want to celebrate Christmas and New Year. And that is why we're seeing an increase in criminal activity. You take the issue of cash in transit robberies. You see these viral videos going around day in and day out. Just the other day on Friday, it was in Limpopo, in Burgersfort, opposite Burgersfort. The robbery gets executed, the cash van gets bombed, and yet members of the public stream forward like ants to grab the remaining cash. What does it tell you? It tells you we have a serious problem. There's a moral issue. There's a issue here with the mindset of our citizens. And really, I think enough is enough.
Civil society is shouting hard, but is government listening? Look at what happened at that public hearing, Yusuf. Members of the public came to have their say, but they were locked out of the public hearing.
Well, we hope that government will listen someday, and I think we need to keep the pressure. We all need to become active citizens, like the so-called National Development Plan says, become an active citizen in your society. And the more we speak up, the more we take a stand, the more we raise our voices, hopefully government will be able to listen. I don't think it's for individuals like myself and a few others only to make a noise. Ordinary citizens must now rise up and make a noise. Become an active citizen within the framework of the law, like I say. We don't want to become lawlessness. We must work with our community police forums. We must work with the police and support the good cops. But really, I think the time has now come for the government, right from the top down, to say that we are going to put tangible actions in place to fight crime. It's good to see the police leadership running from pillar to post. The Minister of Police almost at every funeral of a cop being murdered. The minister arriving at crime scenes. That's good, but it needs to be followed through. There needs to be action. The talk must come to an end. We need to see action on the part of government.
Now, we've spoken about this before, the kingpins not getting arrested. What do you believe are the reasons? Corruption, or are they being co-opted into the intelligence structures and given free rein? What is happening here, Yusuf?
A combination of all. Let me zoom in again on the illicit trade. Billions of rands gets lost annually. The government, SARS, SAPS, Reserve Bank, the police, the FBI, I would imagine, also knows who these kingpins are. Why they are not arrested, I can't understand. Some of these factories involved in the illicit trade are been operating for some time now, for many years, right on our doorstep in South Africa. Why are they not being closed? We know government and the law processes work very, very slowly. That will take 10 years to go and investigate who's involved in the illicit trade. It raises a lot of questions. I would say it's a combination of all the issues you've mentioned and more. Corruption plays a role. Inefficiency plays a role. Uselessness plays a role. Alternatively, government or those involved are simply turning a blind eye. We know that the smuggling of cigarettes, for example, from Zimbabwe to South Africa has been carrying on and on and on. There have been a lot of breakthroughs, but these are the runners, the people driving the trucks, the people escorting the trucks here and there. And yet the kingpins get away with it. No wonder they are smiling all the way to the bankers. We know that the gold mafia investigation by Al Jazeera earlier this year, the 4-part series, exposed these individuals. We know who's involved in money laundering. Yet there are now, some of them are sitting in Dubai, probably sitting on the beach there and having their smoke and continuing to enjoy the cash from the ill-gotten gains. And really, I would say enough is enough for these people who are involved in the illicit trade, who are camouflaging themselves as legitimate dealers and manufacturers. The time must come to an end. Not next year, not next week, I would say right now. And that is why arresting the kingpins will be critical to the fight against crime.
Indeed. Thank you. That is Yusuf Abramjee speaking to BizNews about a nation living in fear and calling on South Africans to stand up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.